Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We're learning Mishnah's Nedarim, Perek Beis, Mishna Aleph. We began Mishna Aleph yesterday, so we will run through the first part again quickly and then continue. So Ve'elim Mutarin. These are the pronouncements that would be permissible, meaning they would not affect a neder. As we've said, a person can make a neder by either saying something is forbidden or by linking it to something that is forbidden, but forbidden through someone's declaration. And that's going to be the examples that are mentioned here. So for example, a person says, Chulin sha'ei halach. That which I eat of yours should be like chulin. That's non-sacred food. That, as mentioned yesterday, is elementary, that it's not going to affect any kind of neder because you didn't link it to anything forbidden. But now we have all the other examples. Kibisar chazir, a person says that which is yours is like chazir, is like pork. To me, kavod zara, it's like idol worship. Kairis levuvin, like the hides of the levuvin offering. Kinevelis, like an animal that died without shchita, without slaughtering, without kosher slaughtering. But katrefais, like an animal that would die from an internal wound, that is not kosher to eat from. Kishkatzim, karamasim, like all these kinds of insects and non-kosher birds and fish. Kachalas arinuk trumasai, like the challah of Aaron and his truma, referring to the challah that we separate from the dough and the truma we separate from our grain. In all these cases, he's trying to link the food that he's trying to forbid to say they should be all like these things. He's saying that which you eat of yours should be like challah. In all these cases, mutter. In all these cases, the food remains permissible because of the fact that he did not link it to something that, number one, is either needs to be declared forbidden, such as chazir does not need to be declared forbidden, and therefore linking to chazir is not going to affect a neder, or if you link to something that even though it needs declaration, but it's not voluntary, it's mandatory, that also is something that if you link your neder to that, it does not affect the neder. So that's the rule right now, and that's the important rule we need to know for continuing the Mishnah. That whenever you make a neder, whenever you prohibit something, whether it's on yourself, whether it's on somebody else, through the neder, and you don't do it by saying explicitly it's forbidden, but you do it by linking it to something forbidden, it has to be linked to something forbidden that becomes forbidden through a declaration of a person, and it has to be a voluntary declaration, just as the neder that you're making now to prohibit this food is a voluntary declaration. Okay. So that's what we did yesterday. Now we go to the next part of the Mishnah. The person says to his wife, he's making a neder. Hare at alai ki'ima. He makes a neder and he says, for instance, he says, you are upon me like my mother. What does that mean? What's he trying to say? He's trying to say to his wife that you're going to be forbidden. You're going to be forbidden for me to cohabit with you because you're like my mother, who's forbidden to cohabit with. So that's what he's trying to do. Basically, he is trying to get at his wife, and he's telling her that you're like my mother. And he's trying to go, and he's not saying that, he's saying that in a form that we understand that he's trying to forbid cohabit to his ability, he's trying to forbid cohabitation with her, and that's what he said. Now, based on what we just said before, that you have to link to something that you declare is forbidden. Is that the case here? Is he linking to something you have to declare to be forbidden? She's forbidden, right? You're linking to one's mother who is automatically forbidden. You don't need any kind of declaration to do that. And therefore, in essence, should this neder take effect?
No.
It shouldn't. But guess what? Midrabanan, according to rabbinic law, it does. According to Torah law, it should not. According to rabbinic law, it does. If a person says you're upon me like my mother, we have to find an opening for him from another place, which will soon explain what that means, so that he does not take this matter lightly. Meaning, according to rabbinic law, according to Torah law, you can't make this neder shouldn't take effect. You link to something that is automatically forbidden. Linking to that would not forbid anything. However, we are talking about specifically, as the commentaries point out, the commentary by Nedarim points out, that we are specifically talking about a person who made this vow who is an Am Haaretz. he is an ignorant person. An ignorant person, an unlearned person, it was common for such a person to make vows quicker than a learned person. And we are afraid that if he can make this vow about forbidding his wife from having cohabitation with him, then the problem is, even though the way he said it right now, it doesn't work, we're afraid that he may do it again, and he may do it again, and at some point he's going to do it right. And that's going to make problems. And therefore, we say to him, even when he did it wrong, guess what? It works. So you don't take this matter lightly. And it's, of course, B'daraisa, according to Torah law, it doesn't work. So according to rabbinic law, that it works. But it works. The rabbis wanted it to work so that this person making such a vow doesn't take this matter lightly and keep doing it, and perhaps eventually do it in a way that would actually forbid his wife. So that's lies. And when the Mishnah says we find from an opening from somewhere else, anytime we're going to see in a Mishnah that a person who makes a neder, we say we have to find an opening for him. That's an expression of which means that there is a power. If a person makes a neder and he regrets it, that there is the power to go to a beis din, to go to rabbinical court, and to have it annulled. Okay, and when he has it annulled, the beis din has to find an opening. It has to find some kind of opening, some kind of possibility to be able to say that it should be annulled. So the mere fact that the Mishnah says that we have to find for him, we have to make an opening for him, that means that the vow took place. So number one, we're strict with him and we say the vow works. Number two is we have to find an opening for him from another place. Now let me read to you here from the notes how to understand that. A person can have his neder annulled by an expert or a court of three knowledgeable men. You have a choice. If a person is considered an expert in the laws of vows, then he alone could annul the neder. Otherwise, you need a court of what we call knowledgeable men. They don't have to be what's called an expert, but they have to be knowledgeable, and then you need a beis din, three. Okay, so now what are the person's possibilities what's his presentation? What's the presentation, or what does the beis din use to be able to find an opening? So this can be done in one of two ways. A, he tells the expert or the beis din that he tells the expert or the beis din that he regrets ever having made the neder. He has regret. He knows he made it, but he has regret for making it. For example, he explains that he made the neder only because he was seized by a sudden burst of anger. He lost himself. So I regret making it. When I made it. But I was so angry then that now that I've calmed down, I regret that I made it. That's number one. Number two, B, the expert or the beis din finds a result of the neder that the person did not consider at the time that would have prevented him from making the neder had he thought of it in the first place. You get that? That means the person made a neder. The neder has certain results that you didn't expect. And if you would have realized those when you first made the vow, the neder, you would have realized or thought about the possibility of that result, you never would have made the vow. Never would have made the neder. That's another way of annulling. That's called that means that again, when he made the vow, we're saying it was a mistake. If he would have known about the result that comes out of this vow, he never would have made it. That means to begin with, it was a mistake. In the first case, it wasn't a mistake. I mean, he knew what he was doing. But he's trying to say, later on, I have regret because at that point of time, I was so angry. There was a reason I made it then, and I regret making it. In this case, he's not saying he regrets it. And but what we're trying to do, he doesn't say, I regret what I did. I mean, he is regretting what he did. But it's not like he's saying, well, when I first made it, I was so angry. He doesn't have that kind of regret. But what he does have is the possibility of saying, if the beis din says to him, if you would have realized this and this result from your vow, would you have made it? And if he says no, then we can say that it was a mistake to begin with. And that's another way of finding an opening to be able to say that the vow is annulled.
So even though the vow technically is not valid, because based on the Torah it's not, they, out of protection for Am Haaretz, because they see them like kids that don't know what they're doing, playing with a gun.
So therefore,
don't touch a gun at all.
They said what you just did now counts.
Yeah, just for the sake
That's
of actually
to be showing
get
to
into that
get into a mindset that making vows is a serious thing.
And at the same
Neder,
time, they
rather.
also leave the opening to cancel.
Well, I'm not finished yet. 1 second. Now, all right. Now, such a neder is regarded to have been made. Okay, there. The second method is called finding an opening from another place, because it comes not from the neder itself, but from a result of the neder. That's just the expression being used in the Mishnah. The expression of the Mishnah is we find them an opening from somewhere else. The first way is the opening comes from within. He regrets it. The second one is it's not from within, but it's coming from somewhere else. That makes us say, okay, it was a mistake to begin with. The something else is the result, the unexpected result from the neder. Okay? So the Mishnah, so those are your two options. The Mishnah only gives him one. Our Mishnah says we make an opening from him from somewhere else. That means we're only giving him that option. We don't give him the other first option. Not only are we being strict with him and saying that his vow works, we're making it even harder for him to take it off. That if he wants to take it off, he only has one option, the second option, of finding an opening from somewhere else. If there was the option of charata, I was so angry when I did it and I regret doing it, no, that's not enough. We're not going to let you off the hook with that. Rather, we're going to, if you can say that if I would have realized a result from this, that because of that I never would have made it in the first place, okay, then it'll work. Then we can annul your vow. So the point here is that our being strict with him so that he doesn't take the matter lightly is that number one, it works when it shouldn't work. And number two, if he wants to undo it, he only has one of the two options to do so. And all this is to make him realize the seriousness of the matter of what he's done. Okay, we will stop here. Have a wonderful Shabbos.